Have you ever felt the weight of silence? The kind that doesn't just fill a room, but crawls inside your chest, pressing down on your heart, making every second feel heavier than the last. Without silence, it's not emptiness. It's a story. A story waiting to break free. The night was colder than usual, not because of the weather, but because of the way everything felt frozen in place. The street outside was alive with noise cars rushing, people laughing, neon lights flickering. Against the wet pavement, but inside the small room, time had stopped. A single clock ticked on the wall, each second sharp. It's like a reminder that something was missing. She sat by the window, staring at the world outside, but not really seeing it. Her reflection in the glass looked like a stranger. It's a shadow of someone who once dreamed, once believed, once burned with light. Now, all she could see was someone carrying a story too heavy to tell. And that's the thing about silence. It doesn't come all at once. It builds. It starts with words left unsaid, messages left unread, calls left unanswered. It hides in the cracks of daily life, in the pauses between conversations, in the way someone looks away when your eyes search for theirs. Silence grows like a vine, slow at first, but before you know it, it's everywhere, wrapping around your thoughts, choking your voice, leaving you with nothing but the echo of what you wish you had said in that moment. The silence was louder than the world outside. Every laugh on the street, every honk, every distant song, it all seemed to fade, drowned out by the storm inside her. She wanted to scream, to break the stillness with words that burned in her chest. But she couldn't, because sometimes silence feels safer than the truth. Sometimes it's easier to let the weight sit there, crushing you slowly, and to risk what might happen if the words finally escaped. And so, she sat still, listening to the clock, letting the seconds stack on top of each other like bricks in a wall she never meant to build. The silence didn't just live inside the room. It followed her everywhere, like a shadow that refused to leave. In the crowded market, surrounded by voices and laughter, she felt it pressing against her skin. In the middle of conversations, it lingered in the pauses, making every word sound hollow, rehearsed, and fragile. It was as if the world had moved on without her. She was left standing in the gap between sound and emptiness. She remembered the days when words flowed like rivers, unstoppable, alive, full of color. Back then, even the smallest things were worth telling. The shape of the clouds, the smell of the rain, the taste of morning tea. But now, words had turned into stones, heavy, unmovable. Every attempt to speak felt like lifting mountains with bare hands. That's what silence does. It doesn't just take your voice, it steals the bridge between you and the world. It convinces you that no one will understand, that no one will stay if they hear the truth. And so you keep it all locked inside, even as it eats at you from within. Sometimes she imagined the silence as a room with no doors, just four walls, growing taller every day, keeping her trapped inside her own head. The more she pushed against them, the stronger they became. Until one day, she stopped pushing. She accepted the walls as if they had always been there. And maybe, in some way, they always had. But here's the strange thing about silence. It teaches you to listen, to hear the unspoken words hidden in someone's eyes, to notice the way their hands tremble, the way their breath changes when they're lying. Silence sharpens the senses. It makes you aware of everything except the one thing you crave most: connection. That night, sitting in the corner of the room, she realized something chilling. The silence wasn't just around her, it was inside her, beating with her heart, breathing with her lungs, and she wondered, if she spoke now, would anyone even hear her? Or would her voice vanish, swallowed by the very silence she had become? The storm didn't arrive with thunder, began quietly like a crack in glass, almost invisible at first. But once the crack appeared, the whole world began to splinter. She could feel it inside her. The silence tearing, the weight shifting, the walls trembling. For too long, she had swallowed her voice, pressing it deeper and deeper into the pit of her chest. But voices are not meant to be buried. They claw their way back up. They demand to be heard. Her hands trembled as if they carried electricity. Every heartbeat was louder, faster, shaking her ribs like a drum of war. She wanted to run, to escape the room, to escape herself. But no matter where she turned, the silence was there mocking her, choking her, daring her to fight back, and then it happened. Not in words, not yet, but in sound. A broken laugh escaped. Her lips, sharp and jagged like shattered glass, startled her, filled the room with something that wasn't silence for the first time in what felt like years. That sound was messy, cracked, ugly, yet it was real. More real than the perfect, quiet she had been trapped in. Memories came rushing in, uninvited and merciless. The last argument, the last goodbye, the message left unread, faces she once trusted, promises that turned to dust. Every memory screamed, overlapping, colliding, until her mind became a battlefield of ghosts. And in the middle of it all, she stood, no longer silent, no longer still. Her breath grew heavier, each inhale like fire, each exhale like smoke. She clenched her fists, feeling the sharpness of her own nails against her skin, reminding herself that she was still here, still alive, still capable of breaking the cycle. And for the first time she understood something. Silence isn't peace. It isn't safety. It's a cage built to keep the truth locked away. And the truth, no matter how terrifying, was begging to be freed. The clock on the wall ticked louder. Her chest tightened. Her voice, buried for so long, rose like a storm. And in that moment, she knew. The silence was about to shatter. The silence broke. But it didn't vanish. Out. It changed. It no longer pressed against her chest like a prison wall. It drifted around her like fog after rain. Softer, lighter, almost forgiving. The room that once felt suffocating now seemed strangely open, as if every corner had been holding its breath. With her, and now, finally, it exhaled. Her voice wasn't strong. It wasn't steady. It came out fragile, trembling, like the flame of a candle caught in the wind. But it was there. Once the words began to escape, they carried more than sound. They carried weight. They carried years of silence. They carried pieces of herself she thought she had lost. And something remarkable happened. The world did not collapse. The walls did not close in. The truth, sharp and messy as it was, did not destroy her. Instead, it freed her. The room seemed warmer, the ticking clock less cruel, the shadows less heavy. She realized that silence had never been the enemy. It was her fear of breaking it. Out the window, dawn was breaking. The street that once seemed distant and unreachable was now alive with possibility. Every moving car, every footstep, every voice outside was a reminder that life was still unfolding, and she had a place in it. The silence had taught her to listen, but her voice reminded her to live. As the first light of morning painted her face, she smiled, not because everything was fixed, not because the past was erased, but because she had chosen to begin again. To speak, to exist loudly even if her voice shook. And so, the silence that once held her captive became something else. A reminder. A reminder that even in the deepest quiet, there is always a voice waiting to rise. And maybe, she whispered to herself, the loudest sound in the world is the courage to finally be heard. But here's the truth, no one tells you. Silence never really disappears. It lingers like a ghost in the spaces between words, in the pauses of conversations, in the breath before someone dares to say what they really feel. Silence is patient. It waits for the day you forget the strength of your own voice. And yet silence is also a mirror. It shows you the shape of your fears, the weight of your regrets, the shadows you've been running from. It holds up everything you've buried and asks, are you ready to face this? Most people aren't. That's why silence wins. That's why it grows. Because we give it permission every time we choose to stay quiet when we should have spoken. She learned this the hard way. Every unspoken word had carved itself into her skin like invisible scars. Every swallowed truth had built another wall, another prison bar. But in breaking the silence, she discovered something far more powerful than fear. Choice. The choice to speak, even when your voice shakes. The choice to reach out, even when rejection feels certain. The choice to live, even when it's easier to hide. And maybe that's the lesson silence was trying to teach her all along. It's not that she should fear it, but that she should learn from it. Because silence is not the end of the story. The beginning of the voice that follows. The quiet before the confession. The pause before the truth. Stillness before the first brave step forward. Now, when she hears silence, she doesn't run from it. She listens, and then she answers. Because she knows that the most powerful sound in the world isn't noise, it isn't shouting. It isn't even music. It's the moment a heart decides it is ready to speak, and maybe just. Maybe this isn't her story at all. Maybe it's yours. The room is empty now. The clock still ticks. The shadows still stretch across the walls, but everything feels different. It's not the silence that changed, it's her. The same quiet that once suffocated her now feels like an open canvas. Waiting for the first stroke of color, the first sound to break across it. Outside, the city moves on, unaware of the battle that was fought in this small, hidden space. The cars hum. The streetlights blink. The world does not stop for her awakening. And yet in her chest, something has shifted, something irreversible. She knows now that silence will return again and again, in moments of fear, of doubt, of heartbreak. But she also knows she carries the power to break it. Not once, not just today, but every time it comes back. Life is made of these choices. The decision to remain quiet, or to speak, to hide in shadows or step into light. She chooses to step forward, even if her steps are small, even if her voice cracks. Because the world does not remember, silence it remembers. The words that dared to rise above it. She takes one last look at the window, her reflection staring back at her. For the first time, it doesn't look like a stranger. It looks like someone who survived. Someone who endured the storm and still found the strength to whisper into the void. The candle on the table flickers. Its flame fragile yet stubborn, refusing to die. And maybe that's what the human voice is: fragile, trembling, uncertain. But it's also fire. It burns, it warms, it lights the way, even in the darkest room. So the story ends where it began, with silence. But this time, silence is not the weight of fear. It's the pause before courage. The stillness before truth. The quiet moment when a heart prepares to speak, and when her lips finally part, when the first word finally escapes, the silence does not shatter, transforms. Because, sometimes she whispers, silence is not the absence of sound. It's the birthplace of everything worth saying. The world will always return to silence. After the shouting, after the laughter, after the tears, there is always a pause.
Yes.
But silence is not the enemy. It is the stage. And every stage waits. For a voice brave enough to step onto it, she is given hers. Fragile, imperfect, trembling but real. And that is enough. Because the voice that dares to rise does not just change a room, it changes the one who carries it now. The silence doesn't scare her anymore. It stands beside her, not against her. Listens, it waits. When she's ready, she answers. The candle burns low. The night gives way to dawn. The first bird sings, piercing the quiet sky, and with it, she smiles. The silence was never empty, she whispers. It was waiting for me. Fade to black.